I'm confident by the end of Tuchel's reign, we'll be more successful in England than Klopp. I think we're going to win. I genuinely think we're going to win. I think it's going to be 2-1. It's going to be close. I'm not getting twisted. We're not going to smash them. But I think Tuchel's got the tactical edge on this guy. I really do. I've said it myself. When Tuchel first came in, I said, my German manager. I'm confident by the end of Tuchel's reign, we'll be more successful in England than Klopp. I'm so confident of that. I think Werner comes in instead of Havertz. And I think Werner's going to get in behind. He's really going to cause them problems. And Lukaku, the way he was performing last week, everyone knows I wasn't the biggest Lukaku guy. The way he was performing last week, he comes in and does that this week. I'm going to have to... that's cool, but he can still do it. He's been doing it against everyone. How many people predicted he's going to be top goal scorer at Euros? Top goal scorers at Euros. That's cool. He can go up against the best centre-back in Europe. However, you be careful, because if you're saying that and he bodies him, watch out. Because we already know what Van Dijk is. But Lukaku in the Prem is, as I said, he's an unknown. If he comes in and bodies Van Dijk now, it's different. It's different now. And trust me, we're going to win 2-1. We're going to win 2-1. Don't worry.
Welcome back to the Top 6 show. David with a big L on Thomas Tuchel there. Of course, sacked this week against all odds. Graham Potter now installed. We'll be delving into that. Liverpool, are they in crisis? Another defeat. Trent being exposed. Van Dijk off the pace. Jurgen Klopp with yet more excuses. Milner looking about 97 years of age, a battering they went through. We're taking a review of the midweek games as well as Man United's catastrophic defeat at the hands of corrupt refereeing yesterday. Also, we're taking a look at football being cancelled, the outrage that's ensued from there. And a few people in the comments are, how is there an outrage? People are outraged that the football's been cancelled, and we're going to delve into why. We're going to have a little chat about Trevor Sinclair as well, and freedom of speech. When it comes to broadcasting, it's important for a podcast to talk about. But look at the panel we have for you tonight. We've got little Tom Little. Little Tom Little is here, ready to do his thing, have a little chit-chat with us. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, mate. Weekend coming up. No footy, so it's a bit dead, but I can just go get pissed up for 3 days now with no excuse.
There we go. Neeks is in the house as well. Looking as happy as ever, like the cat that got the cream. Plans for the weekend now? There's no football?
I'm on the back of, finally playing a decent team in our last 5 and losing. I'm actually glad there's no football this weekend. So, I can just relax and just take it easy, to be honest, and prepare for the big game against Sheriff next week.
Absolutely. And Daps is back with us there. How you doing, Daps?
Oh, it's been a while. You good?
Yeah, mate. Not bad. Look at you. You look like, where are you? Sky Sports? Where are you at?
Well, I was going to call you Terry Thuggery with that intro. Great bit of work there.
I know.
How you can delve back to them old clips.
In fairness, we've been doing them for time. We did one once that went so viral. It was crazy. You ever seen the one of DT getting angry? No, it's cancelled now.
Yeah. Was that you?
But he got up and kicked his leg out, and then it went into Michael Jackson songs. You ever see that? Was that you? That was me. That was us. Yeah, that was time, bruv. Yeah, we've been doing these a long time.
Could have done a good one on what's it called this week as well? Troops, to be fair.
Oh, yeah, no, that was easy. Jessica Black is here with us. How are you?
I'm good. I see people in the comments are calling me Salty Jess, so I'm just going to roll with it. I'm salty as ever. Here to salt up the football terrace. I'm just going to lean into it since...
You were salty, Jess. Last Sunday, you were salty.
Yeah, I was salty, of course. I was salty, yeah.
And we're joined today by the returning Don. It's Todd B's favorite son. Have hope.
Todd B! Aloha, man.
I know. And we will be getting on to Chelsea a little bit later. No doubt about it whatsoever. Viewers, make sure like buttons are being smashed. Make sure you're subscribing to the terrace. Make sure you have notifications turned on. But football had been cancelled for this weekend at least. It may be longer. The cancellation of football may be longer than that, depending upon police resources that are required for Her Majesty's funeral next weekend. I still don't know if it's been 100% even confirmed when it is. The last time I checked, there's talk of Saturday, there's talk of Monday. So it could be 2 weekends worth of Premier League games cancelled. Still no 100% word, as far as I'm aware, on the Champions League games. But I'm pretty sure they're going to go ahead because I don't see how they can do that to other nations. But what's everyone's reaction to this? Because there's some that seem really outraged by it, like general fans, quite a lot of pundits, the likes of Gary Neville. You've had one of those weird days, and these happen like once a year. This happens where everybody agrees with Piers Morgan, and like a lot of people coming out and saying it's wrong that it's been cancelled. What are we thinking?
Look, I feel that this is a very particular season. I think if this is any other season and so forth, it is what it is. It is sort of protocol, 10 days of mourning and everything. But when you just look at this year in terms of how tough the schedule is, how difficult the schedule is, and the facts of it's going to be really hard to fit all these games. Like, these games will not have to be played in the next year. They can't be played this year. It's impossible. With the FA Cup and the Carragher Cup, it's impossible to fit them in this year. So, because what I am reading was that the government said that day of the funeral, everything is cancelled. But it's up to the discretion of all sports institutions to decide whether to go ahead. So this was solely an FA decision. This wasn't imposed by the government. And for me, I say that because of this year and how tough the schedule is, 1 minute silence, black armband, boom. So I don't know how you can't go ahead and do that when you're keeping in mind that of how difficult it is this season and this year fitting in all these games. I don't know what's wrong with 1 minute silence, black armband, boom, because of the schedule this year. So, but
you know the way I see it, HH. The reality is, like, time is never gonna run out. So if you need to play the games at a certain, at a later stage, you play the games at a later stage. If that means then, let's say for example something happened, like, I don't know, a pandemic, and you have to play the games at a later stage, and it pushes the next season a bit further back, or and then you have to catch up at a later time. So be it, kind of thing. Like we're running out of time because we want to get it within a schedule of finishing it by the 26th of May. But who suggests that it has to finish on that date? Things can be pushed back. So, so what I would say is I don't think the reasoning for me should be based on the fact that a World Cup is in Qatar. The reasoning for it needs to be based on the situation that we're in terms of do they think we should postpone it because of her passing or not, regardless of anything else? Because I think the reasons for postpone it for a passing outweigh the fact that we might have to move 2 games, if you get what I'm saying. So
it's just weird though, it's just weird because the football's cancelled, but you've got other sports that are carrying on and playing their games over the weekend, whereas we have to cancel all of ours. That's the part that sticks at me.
But the thing is,
sorry, go on.
The Premier League, we already know how football has a bad reputation when it comes to signing, whether it's to do with how much players get paid, how the footballers behave in society, in terms of they're always on the front pages at times, not even just the back pages, compared to other sports, cricket, rugby. You don't hear much about it like that. So I think football's already in a position where it's like, well, you've got all this money in the middle of a cost of living crisis, and if they play, the Premier League were a lose-lose. If they play the football, there'll be a big discussion about how disrespectful and how football thinks they're above the law and they're bigger than the country. And equally, if they don't play the football, you get a lot of people who then say,
wait, hold on. Okay, so you'd be disrespectful if so football would still be chastised if they had the 1 minute silence, matching band, whole thing about the Queen of Hearts. So they'd still be chastised.
110%. We've seen scandal in other sports in recent weeks and months. Racism in cricket as an example. And yes, I've seen elements of it trending on socials, but it's not been the main topic on talksport. There haven't been trending videos everywhere. There hasn't been Good Morning Britain debates as such. Not that I've seen trending. Like, if it's football, it's always 100 times. It's always 100 times bigger when it's football. And Nick, you put it in the group chat earlier, and I don't like to plagiarize. You know that, so I'll repeat what you said. But football was damned if it did and damned if it didn't. And I think they've taken the course of action which stops them from getting slated by the media, attacked by the columnists, attacked by the Guardian, all these kind of areas that would, AOC would probably have something to say about it. Joe Biden would get involved. It would go international if the Premier League played. There'd be outrage about it.
No. That's sorry. Look, I mean, I think if I'm the FA, I think Terry, you are right. If I'm the FA and I'm having to choose which kind of anger I can live with, I can live with the anger of like the football fans being pissed off. That's the anger that I can live. So from their point of view, I'm like, okay, they'll be pissed off for this weekend, but as you said, the media, the international community, and so forth, and based on just what the Premier League is as a brand, the keyword brand. So if I'm making the decision, call it off for the brand. So I'm just talking as me, Half-Hope, the dude with shades. So that's just me as Half-Hope. But take Half-Hope out of it, and let's say I'm working for the brand FA, and then I have to now do stuff for the brand. It's a brand. It's a business. It's about being performative. It's about appearances. So you have to make this decision. If some guys on Twitter will be pissed off and so forth, yes, you'll be pissed off. When it's back, you'll forget about this. Whereas if we do the adverse,
just before you come in, there's comments saying cricket's going on, but this is the point. If this didn't happen, none of you would have known cricket was going on. I knew cricket was going on because I watched cricket. But cricket going on now is a story because football's not going on. But if football's playing this weekend, none of you would have known that England were playing South Africa. It's actually the second day of the test. Well, it's actually technically the third day because the second day would have been today. The first day was washed out. The match had already started. Nobody knows that, but it's a news story because it's linked to football, and this shows the size of the game.
And this is it. Well, someone here just said our racism. This comment here says our racism in cricket. Are you okay compared to football? That isn't the point. Actually, if you actually look at who is committing the racism, that's the equivalence in football. It's like Marcus Rashford being found guilty of it. Everyone in the country would know. Like, I'm not saying that it wasn't covered, and I'm not saying there isn't racism in football. You're completely misrepresenting the point that I made. It's just a tiny sport in comparison to the media coverage that football gets, and that's why football was made as made this decision. I really do.
Terry, can I just say quick? The thing is that it's another example. If we go back, someone mentioned the pandemic earlier, and the government, with all the decisions, they never made any. They just said, like, we'll leave it up to businesses to make the decisions. We'll leave it up to, and by doing that, like, they have put the brand, the Premier League, the FA, they've put that in an awkward position. Because if it was protocol, like, you know what, there's 12 days of mourning or whatever it is, right? And firstly, RIP the Queen. If there's a protocol, put it out there, everyone follows it, and then, we as football fans can't moan at the FA because the FA are following a protocol, right? Same way, no one can complain. The government, they'll complain at the government, and the government will take the slack. Instead, they've put the Premier League, the FA, they've put them in a position where if they go against it and play football, then anyone that is respectful towards the Queen, does want to mourn, is a royalist, will go against them. But then people like so, for example, I bought my ticket up to Manchester for today. I've lost 80 quid now, is what it is, right? But again, at the moment, with the cost of living, now football fans, the working class, are like, brilliant, we're out of pocket now because of the government not making a decision. So either way, the Premier League, the FA, they will get it from one angle. The government won't, because the government said, well, our opinion, but we're not giving it. So the government, once again, sorry if I shouldn't talk in the government, but they've protected themselves and they've put other people in the firing line.
Even if you're arguing on respect, and that's an important thing to give, I think the Queen would get more respect if you've done what people have been saying, where you have the minute silence or the minute applause, you wear the black armbands. It would be more respect and more coverage than the football fans staying at home. They're not going to do that much respect that she would be getting otherwise. So I understand that it's a meaningful thing and you've got to mourn and all that stuff, but then it's got to go nationwide. I can't remember who tweeted it, but someone said something that I agree with. If you've got to do everything else in life, why is the football being cancelled? Why is the escape being cancelled?
Another one is
that's the only thing that's been lost.
This is it, Tom. For me personally, I'm not saying if I was in charge, would I have done it? I don't know. I'm not in charge. I'm not saying it's right that it should be or wrong that it has been cancelled. My argument, or should I say my reasoning, is I understand why they've done it. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it, but I understand why they've done it. If they had gone ahead with it, you can honor and respect through the means that you said, but equally, not doing it doesn't mean that you're not honoring and you're not respecting. So I think for me, it's just it's damn.
I mean, like Tom, though,
the way it gets polarized. It's the way it gets. Sorry, it's the way it gets polarized. Did you say that either way you could have paid respect? I think for me though, and there's a comment here from Twisted Bubba that says this is not an issue of morality, not money. And I hear your point, but to working class people, money and morality are sometimes very much linked. You know, they will look at it from a point of view of like, that's there. I've paid out the money, and now I'm not going to get that back. You know, I don't know that situation.
That's crazy, man.
I'm going to say this. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but that probably hasn't got an endless supply of money where you can just throw £80 away a day and not worry about it and not think about it. You know, man's got kids, man's got mortgage, man's got bills, the same as most people. And I think that
I got lucky.
You might be rolling.
But I got lucky that I am going to another weekend game in a couple of weeks that I can change my hotel to that weekend. Again, if I couldn't have done that and this was like the one time, imagine if you've flown over from somewhere or anything, you've made all these arrangements, right?
No, I agree.
But aren't you still getting refunds though?
Yeah, no, some will, some won't. It really depends on what hotels. If you book train tickets, Virgin, and they'll say things like, yes, apparently,
that what they'll do is, Terry, they will refund. Someone sent me something. If you apply for it 24 hours before you're due to travel, they'll refund it. But I booked my ticket, got my ticket like yesterday, 4 PM, right?
Yeah.
And then 24 hours, I was due to get on a train at 2:00 today. So I can't do nothing. It's just gone.
Yeah. And I hear that. So there'll be that. But I think the element beyond it, which is not being discussed enough on the airwaves for me, is it's not even just the people that bought tickets. It's the businesses that rely on, you know, we earlier on today, I was watching Welcome to Wrexham with Ryan Reynolds and I can't remember it, Rob, I can't remember his surname, the guys that bought Wrexham.
Looks good, that.
It looks very good. 3 or 4 episodes, very, very good. And there's a pub that features, and it's the third oldest club in Britain. And the club was founded in the pub, I think it's called The Turf. This is directly outside. And one of the main features in the show is the owner and of this pub. And he talks about the match day culture of Wrexham. What time people arrive in the pub on a Saturday around about 11. They eat food, they all drink together, they socialize, they have fun, they go to the game. For the pub, there was a business that's 3.5 to 4 hours of business on a Saturday before a game. If these games, and I'm using it as an example because if these Saturday games are cancelled and they're moved to a Tuesday evening, the businesses around the stadium do less business in an evening game because people arrive later because they have work, etc. These are all the things that frustrate me, is no one ever thinks about the knock-on effect the local businesses have, the people that they employ, and everybody surrounding it. Football is such an important industry to this country. When people say it's only football, it's always got my goat because yes, of course, football itself directly earns billions that a lot of working class people don't touch. But the businesses around it, it's worth more than what it's more than what I guarantee if they added up how much money the Premier League generates outside of its own TV revenue money in itself, and you looked at all the connecting businesses in this country to the Premier League, it's worth billions and billions of pounds a year. And that's potentially hundreds of millions of pounds that are going to be wasted. And I kind of look at it along the lines of, I get that some people want to respect and honor the Queen. Some don't, by the way, and that's also fair. We live in a free society where you have every single right not to do that. That's literally what I was always taught they stood for. Whether you believe they stand for that or not is what they say, right? So I take people at their word sometimes. But it's a case of, this is what annoys me. It's like, I understand you want to do things and follow protocol and look like, you know, a very civilized and loving country. It's great. But it's going to look good on TV. The BBC will make it look amazing that football's been cancelled and people are in mourning. And oh my God, look how much they love their Queen. But in reality, there's going to be people sitting there frustrated saying, well, I can't open my business now all weekend, or I'm going to lose a weekend's worth of trade. And you never really get it back. The game will be put on late. Who knows what's going to happen? Whenever you lose money, I don't think you ever really get it back. that day's gone. You never get that day back.
Really good point about the Saturday to a midweek game as well. That's a very good point.
And again, this is not a dig at people. Unless you've been a regular match-going fan, you don't notice these things. Because you've never partaken in them as much as other people, and that's the biggest frustration for me. And now I'm someone that thinks it's like, okay, honour the Queen, but as you said at the top, have hope. I think you're bang on, mate. Sing the national anthem if you would like. Do a minute's silence or a minute's applause. Wear black armbands, and I'm pretty sure most stadiums. I know that not everyone will. West Ham, I weren't surprised to see them singing the national anthem. Very, very nationalistic in the East End of London. A lot of people are, but like, if some club want to do it, some don't want to do it, and equally, like, respect it. Does that make sense? Like, it's one of those things for me. There's been a lot of disrespect in the last few days of people that want, and this is maybe the problem with society now. Some want to honor it and respect her and what they felt in her. And then people are being chastised and attacked. Like Liverpool Football Club had to mute its comment section for things like people were saying to them, as opposed to just about her. And it's like, come on now. Like, I thought we were in a civilized society, but we're obviously not. And kind of leads us on to our next point, really, which was the Trevor Sinclair situation. Of course, Trevor Sinclair works with the biggest sports broadcasters in England, talksport. Obviously, they do what we do on a, some would say, more professional level. I've listened to some of their opinions, and I wouldn't call it professional, to be honest. But
very delayed as well, by the way. Couple of days delayed.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, Trevor Sinclair's come out with, I mean, it's a tweet that outraged the world, and he'll put it up there now. It's saying that racism was outlawed in England in the 60s, and it's been allowed to thrive. So why should black and brown people mourn? Like #the Queen. Since then, he sort of disconnected and turned his Twitter off. He has put it back on now and apologized and said that my tweet yesterday was ill-timed at a time when the royal family and many around the world were grieving the Queen. I apologize for any offense caused to those mourning the Queen. But there's obviously big calls today for talksport to sack him. There's calls for talksport to remove him from his job, stop his income. What's everyone's thoughts on this? I mean, are we getting to a point now where is it right for an opinion like that to make you lose your job?
No, I say right now. Not like for a fact, I know that he won't be allowed to continue, and based off of the peer pressure of social media and so forth, they'll sack him. But my thing is, where have we gone from? I've said something, I'm sorry for it, it's deleted, and we can move on. He gave an opinion. Okay, maybe it was Elton, I'm sorry, but that was just how he was feeling. And he's apologized for it and so forth. Sorry for any offense, consent, boom. But remember, this is 2022, and this is the era of cancel culture. Once you put out that tweet, no one cares about your apology. Your apology doesn't mean anything. Once you failed for life. In this world, the whole thing of like, oh, I'm sorry. No. Forget about sorry. That thing that you said, that's set in stone, and we shall crucify you for it. And Trevor, you see, I don't even know what the hell he was thinking, because it would make sense for Trevor if he put out that tweet and realized what would happen afterwards. You apologizing afterwards, that's pointless, because Trevor, don't you know the world that you live in? So you apologizing after, it's a moot point. Once you put out that tweet, you must be prepared for the consequences.
Especially with the hashtag. When he's put the hashtag, it's like when you do something like that, you want people to see it. Otherwise, 100%. You wouldn't put hashtag Queen at the end. You wanted people to see. It shocked me a bit as well, because the one thing about Sinclair is I've always thought that I don't want to say he's a yes man, but generally his opinions on talk sport, he's not like outrageous. So he's obviously very passionate about it, which we totally get. And what he said, there's relevance to it 100%. It is a big discussion about whether the what our history as a country. But there's for me, I don't think it should be cancelled, but come on, read the room, time and a place, respect. That was the only thing. But I hope he doesn't get cancelled, but he will get cancelled.
Well, it's too late. Like saying, I hope he doesn't get cancelled. We're beyond that. He's 100% going to be canceled. Like it's done already. And he probably just didn't think about it. He got swept up in the sitting on his phone, looking at all this stuff coming out, and saw what everybody else was tweeting and forgot about who he was and who he worked for and sent that tweet. And now he knows, and he comes out with the apology. It's probably not going to mean anything. I saw a lot of people saying apology not accepted. There are a lot of people that I've seen over the last 24 hours that have expressed their admiration and love for this figure. But just my thing just is that
How could he not know? That's the thing that just shocks me. No, because
I think he got swept up. I think he got swept up. I think some people they see things happening and they're like, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I've done it before, like not on this magnitude, but I see stuff and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna say this, and then I'm like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
No,
I think that's what he did.
No, but my thing though is that because literally I was gonna tweet something, but I was like, okay, and Nix, you know what I was gonna tweet because Nix, we've had our conversation. But I was like, you know what? I know what I've built for several years on my channel, and I know of the repercussions. I say, you know what? Let me leave this to my WhatsApp group. Let me leave this to my Jamaican, West Indian, Nigerian, Irish folk. Let's keep that to our WhatsApp group. Because if I put that out there, there's no, and also of the time as well, there's no point. So why do it? So Jess, my thing is that for Trevor, I don't want to call him foolish, but I'm like, bro, there is so much time you can have to think before tweeting. Come on, man.
Well, one last thing on this, like, because I get what you're saying. You're 100% right. But on the other side of like being canceled or not, I just feel like cancel culture is like, so Terry and I have talked about this a lot. It's when you're on the receiving end, you're like, oh, I don't want to be canceled. But then if somebody says something you don't like, then you're like, oh, I don't want to do this and that and the third. And I feel like you should just, it's the antithesis of free speech. And if we don't have it, then Twitter is literally a platform built for you to say what you want to say and move on from it. And people can and literally put in the comment section, I don't like what you're saying. And that should kind of just be the end of it. And now we're at the point where like, oh, you got to lose your job. But this happens so often because it's like, it only matters when it happens to you. I've seen people say things before that I didn't like, and they got canceled. And I didn't think anything of it because I was like, well, I didn't like what she said. But it's not right, because now I'm looking at him and I'm like, well, should he get canceled? So cancel culture is dangerous. Like, I really think it's dangerous. He should not lose his job, but he will, because that's the precedent that has been set. Like, it's just there.
Sports spoke on it yet? Have they spoken on it yet?
They have. They said that they're investigating it. The issue that I have, there's so many elements to this, but on the cancel culture, this is where it's dangerous, is by propagating cancel culture, you are almost ensuring that in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you get cancelled for something that you maybe say today that's acceptable, that in the future is unacceptable. Now, that's a slightly different example to what Trevor Sinclair has done. What he tweeted in the moment was deemed eligible to get you cancelled. But you've already seen people now, tweeting jokes 10 years ago to friends. And I tell you why it's important on Twitter, because when I first started on Twitter, it was a place where only me and my friends followed each other. No one outside of me and my little friends group saw each other's tweets, because there weren't even that many people using the damn thing. So I've seen people, not people I know, but like banter mates and say things that are a little bit inappropriate. They're like group chat level messages to each other on Twitter. They get dragged up 10 years later, and then they're in trouble for it. And it's almost a case of, you're taking that comment out of complete context of how it was meant, and what you were saying. Cancel culture is very, very dangerous, as Jess has just said, because, it might be something you believe in, but the mob today wants you cancelled, and that happens. And if you bring the organization you work for into disrepute, as TalkSport are now, it's likely that they're going to be forced into cancelling you, or sacking you, as the old-fashioned word. Cancelling is essentially losing your job, right? This is what this thing means. At the same time with Trevor Sinclair, though, he has been stupid. And the reason that Trevor Sinclair has been stupid is this. There's another tweet that he put out around 2 years ago. And that tweet 2 years ago was, our queen looked so fragile when addressing the nation earlier, but was so genuine with humility. Her Majesty still inspired. And for me, this is my point about, I think, what Trevor Sinclair has done. The whole swept up in the moment thing. What's become very fashionable in the last 2 years online is certain groups of people are open. There's open season to attack them and to be nasty and to say vile things. And I think he's thought, this is my chance to feed into the people that like doing that, grow my popularity, be edgy. And it backfired. We saw this not long ago, and I don't remember her name. She also goes on TalkSport, ex-female football player. She tried to refer. There was an incident in football.
Was it Leanne?
Yeah, she tried to make something sound racist, and it just fell flat. And everyone was like, "Nah, that's not the one." There was also Jess Glynn, the singer, that wasn't allowed into a restaurant for wearing a hoodie, and she tried to turn that into some kind of oppression type thing. People, every now and then, people try and take an incident and go, "I can make this sound like someone's been sexist or someone's been racist or whatever, and it just doesn't hit. Does that make sense? Like people, a lot of people want to put out that kind of woke.
Caught in the moment. People are human and get caught in the moment.
I think Trevor Sinclair. I think Trevor Sinclair has done that. I think he's thought, right, this will bang, this will do me good. And if it's happened, and it's gone down like a fart at a funeral. And
sorry. Let me say my 2 pence, because I think the reality is his tweet wasn't wrong, and it's not wrong. There's 2 parts to the tweet. The first part says racism was outlawed in England in the 60s. Now I don't have the law in front of me. I'm assuming he's right. He may be a few years out.
It was in the 60s some point, probably.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And then he says, and it's been allowed to thrive, which is 100% true. At the top of the show, Terry just mentioned in passing the racism happened in cricket. That's very, very recent. We're talking the last 5-10 years. And we know it happens on a day-to-day basis within society. 100% right with the tweet. The second part of the tweet, without the exclamation, is a question. He says, so why should black and brown mourn? Now, he puts exclamation marks as a statement because, of course, it seems he believes that black and brown should not mourn. But ultimately, it's still a question because he asks, so why should black and brown mourn? And I say he's right because the first 2 parts of the tweet are correct. And it's a valid question. The answer...
It's a time and a place, so in it. It's
no.
The only thing is a time and a place to ask the question.
Let me get there. So the answer or the response to it should be your explanation as to why you, maybe as a black or brown person, decide to mourn, or you as maybe a white person think that black and brown people should mourn, whatever it is. But there is a time and a place. And one point that HH said was, what did he gain from it? And that's what I think we all have to, you have to think about when you're putting these things out. What did I gain from, or what would I gain, or how will society benefit from me putting this tweet out at this moment? No, racism doesn't end from him putting it out. There hasn't been an apology from the monarchy after him putting it out.
But people could get, to be fair, that's the one bit where I could say, do you know what? If you want impact and you want people to see, like the younger generation, let's say Twitter predominantly is the younger generation, the younger generation saw that tweet, and maybe some of the younger generation, because of the way this country is, haven't been educated correctly. So maybe he has gained something from it because they've gone and thought, hold on, what's he talking about? Let me go and have a look at
Can I say something just a little bit controversial, just off of the back of like time and place? I think time and place is only relevant if he wants to keep his job. I feel like, but now saying, like we said, it's a time and a place.
Apologize now suggests that, because if he didn't care about it, then you double down.
Well,
he probably talksport got in his ear though.
Well, exactly.
And
now he's but just that's the whole point. Then that makes the most point.
Yeah,
so,
I get that. Nick, go on, bro. Go on, finish.
I'm going to finish what I'm saying. So, for me, what he said was not incorrect, and it's a question that does need to be asked. But you also have to, and I agree with the sentiment of his tweet, but I didn't tweet that for the reason that you know how the response is going to be, and it's not going to be a response that you want. Because the response that you want is for things to change, is for people to think, is for society to do better. But all you're going to get from that is you out of a job and out of a position where you can actually affect that change. So I think he's shot himself in the foot by putting it in the time that he did. But the question is very, very valid. And it's the reason why I can't mourn for anyone in the monarchy for the reasons that he stated. But have we got any further because of that tweet at the time that you did? And now that you've apologized, it's like we're going back.
Mate, I agree with that. And like all those other examples I mentioned, like not letting people into restaurants dress a certain way, there's a way in which you could probably start a conversation if you're a big enough influencer to get that moving. You know, sometimes, the Leanne was trying to do, there's probably different ways you could have worded it and people would have maybe bought into the conversation. But sometimes it's timing, it's wording. And again, when I look back at his tweet as an example, to sort of saying this, so why should black people mourn? You've interpreted it a little bit differently to me. One of the things I have a personal issue with, and I know you spoke about this privately, Neeks, is I don't believe that just because someone has melanin in their skin, they should all believe, think, feel the same way, listen to the same music, eat the same foods, vote the same way. For me, that is a racist thought in itself, irrespective of what color skin the person who's making the claim has got. Just because Jess is from America and she has black skin, I would not assume a number of things about her based on that. You get to know the individual. And I think there are lots of black and brown people that will feel this loss and will feel a different way to others. And I think the problem is with that kind of question, especially in such an emotive time as the time that it was done, if you then get, and what I saw to his original tweet was some people of color responding with, I thought, fairly articulate and rational reasons as to why they would mourn. And then that was then attacked with people calling them the C word. Oh, you're doing
divide and conquer. Divide and conquer.
Well, yeah, you're doing that. And that's why sometimes it's save it, position it, present it in the right way. And again, what I advocate all the time is civil discourse. We all had that in the group chat this morning, as you know, like, I've got different views to you all, but we listened to each other and we respected them. And I think this and I think that. And that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I see it from your point of view. Twitter is no longer the place to have civil discourse. It isn't the place at all. It becomes, it really, like, people put things. I mean, there was a woman yesterday that put something out and it was far more horrendous in terms of the way it read. I hope she burns in hell and and I looked at it and just thought, you might lose your job over this. Yes, you might have gained 10,000 followers, but you kind of put a mark against your name now as being a particular type of person, because there is still this thing in the world called decorum, and there's still a way of behaving after something bad happens to someone that you don't necessarily like. And I think that we're kind of losing that, and it comes out of clout chasing for a lot of people. And this is where I think it comes from. Oh, if I go now and it bangs, this will be me. And people do that. I do that when I want to tweet about transfer. Should I go now and say something? Oh, all this incident's happened. Should I tweet this? I do it in a football.
No, you don't, Terry.
Yeah, no, I do.
On the cancel thing, it's going to be interesting, because I know at first I was thinking, yeah, he's done, he's finished. But talksport is owned by Sky Sports, if I'm correct. Sky Sports.
Yeah.
Is it?
But yeah, talksport's owned by the Sun. The people that own the Sun, Murdoch. So,
okay.
There's a slight connection at the top, but it's the Sun, basically. Yeah. Okay.
Because Sky Sports have a presenter on there who took some time out because of a physical, as in he spat at someone, and people were saying, "Oh, how can he come back?" And he comes back, and everyone gets on with it. Trevor Sinclair said something that hurt a number of people's feelings. Is that worse than that incident that happened? No.
Man City lives in Nick, you're going into dangerous waters. Nick, you're going into very dangerous waters right now.
And I get that it's, the Queen. I get that part, but he said something that people didn't agree with. Someone done something.
I agree. I agree.
I'm horrified by.
I think it's about how many people, like how deep this, like, I get that you can compare things and say, well, physical altercation is worse, but it just matters how many people on a certain side are offended by it.
No, yeah, but
because we all know that physical over saying something is like, but it depends on who's
that's
mad.
Wrong. No, that's wrong. I've been told for the last 7-8 years now in the political sphere that words are violence. So that's
they break my bones.
Yeah, well, this is but Nix, I make you right, but you can also look at it the other way, right? When it comes to talking about racism, he works for the radio station that's owned by the Sun, who is seen as the most racist newspaper in the country. Therefore, you're being paid by a racist organization. Who are you to speak about racism? Like, this is the thing now in this world, because we're all hypocrites in one way, shape, or form. I always give the example: I'm against capitalism, whilst you've got a Starbucks in your hand and you've got an iPhone in the other. It's the same difference, I'm against racism. Oh, do you want to write a column for the Sun? Yes. I look at that personally as it's a little bit of a conflict there, isn't it? But some people like, no, I'm getting the word out and doing my thing. But they've got some super chats here I want to go for. I don't want to ignore these that have come in. My boss here in Florida is an older English woman. I had made a statement about someone being a royalist, and she responded saying, "We all are." Well, that's not true. We are not all royalists in this country. I've got two of my brothers who are the opposite end of being a royalist. I'm not even too sure what the word is, but they are literally abolished the Queen. They've been out there the whole life. So in the same household, my family split in relation to that. No one in my family is really a royalist, to be fair, but there we go. We are in, I don't know what that's meant to be.
England, English flag, England.
Oh, it doesn't show on here. We are in England if we have to respect. If we have to respect everyone, then others need to respect the Queen equally. It works both ways. Trev offended me, which is you're entitled to that. Slavery has been everywhere, done by almost everyone since the time of the hunter-gatherers. By that logic, everyone is owed respect. Listen, that's going into fields that we are not discussing on the football terrace. But you are right that the situation is deeper than recent history. But yeah, I mean, I did make the joke the other day. Not a joke. I pointed out that people were angry that the stage shows Hamilton and Les Miserables paid commiserations to the Queen. And I get, if you know the history of those plays and what they're about, theoretically they shouldn't be paying any kind of homage to the monarchy. But at the same time, like, how far back do you go? Do you blame the Queen for Henry VIII cutting off his wife's head? You know, do the feminist groups come for, like, and I'm not even trying to be flippant. I'm like, one of those incidents was in like the 1750s, like, and I kind of get it, but I just like everyone's opinions on it. So yeah, today has been a wild day on socials, no doubt about it. These people looted our countries, made us slaves, killed our people, and you ask us to respect them. What has the world come to? Where was the time and place when coming? Listen, I get where you're coming from, which is why I think everybody's entitled to their opinion and everybody's entitled to do and say what they want. I want to go back to something Jess said, freedom of speech. Like, I don't quite know what you said, but around freedom of speech. The one thing about freedom of speech, especially in England, I'm not too sure about in the States, freedom of speech doesn't mean there won't be consequences to what you say. And talksport, by the way, let's have this right. Talksport have the right and the freedom to sack him if they don't like his behaviors outside of work. And this isn't one thing I'd say about cancel culture, which I would defend, is it's always been here. If you did something crazy outside of work 20 years ago and your company found out, they'd sack you still. Yeah. They would still fire you. You know, if you're working in a bank, I'm pretty sure if Neeks did something illegal, or if Neeks did something that would bring his company into disrepute in normal life, it might lose his job. Like, cancel culture is not a new thing. The reason it's changed now is you get mobs online that find you who you work for, and go to your company and try and make you lose your job. But the concept that's what I think
that's the difference for me, is that it's like, had there been no mob, would you have been in any sort of trouble? You know, that's for me, because I do think a lot of it does come from the outrage online and people telling you this person needs to lose everything.
I agree.
It's a little different.
I agree. My issue, as I said earlier, the issue with the cancel culture is that, and not in this instance per se, but you might make Sinclair might have put this again. I think he's done it for an element of clout, like timing it. Oh, I'm going to put this out now, even though I think his points are valid. Timing, as you say, is key. But the problem with cancel culture is that if everybody buys into it, you might be tweeting something today that you think's fine and everyone agrees with, but the world might be different in 10 years. I'm not even going to bring up any of these subjects, but there are things that you can't say now that 10 years, and I'm not talking about anything to do with race or religion, but there are things that if you said now, 10 years ago, if you said them 10 years ago, no one would have even, everyone would have agreed with you. Now you'd be in trouble. An example I was given on this was that 30 years ago in England, if you were an MP who advocated for say, for instance, same-sex marriage, you would have been very unlikely anywhere in England to have been voted in. Now, if you don't advocate for it, you won't get voted in. The Overton window changes, and when what becomes publicly acceptable changes, it goes up and it changes. It really, really does. And so I think you just need to be careful. And that's why I think my message to people is, you may want to really say something, and it might be something you really believe in, but be careful. Companies now, when they're employing you, do full social media checks. They will check everything you've ever tweeted, what you've posted, who you follow, things that you like, you know, images that you put out there of yourself. You know, I see young ladies like putting very, you know, fairly provocative pictures out there. Now, your freedom, you put out whatever you want, but an employer might look at that and go, do we want that individual here? Some bosses might go, oh, I fancy a bit of that. Others might think, no, not for me. Because this is also what happens. A company employs you, and then you maybe are speaking to a client. That client may Google search you and check you out. That happens as well. They then come across these things and go, oh, do I want to work with a company that employs someone who does this? That's why your footprint online is so important. It's, for me, it's one of the most, it's basically an online live active CV or resume if you're in the States that you're putting out there. And you must be very, very careful with what you say and what you do. You really, really need to. I agree the games should be cancelled, but all the games should be cancelled, not just football. And what makes more sense to cancel football on the funeral day?
I agree with that one for me.
I hear that point there.
More on that day.
Words have the same effects as physical violence. It's just some Sorry, it's just the same as me saying HH is Kokai.
No, I'm not.
Kokai, that's why he wears glasses. This Man City fan born a decade ago. That's not true. Let's not get dapped onto that. He's been going a long time. Free speech is not free.
3 years.
Say what you want, but you are not free from consequences.
Yeah.
That consequence is also considered speech. This is very true. So it does work in every direction. And social media is also really dangerous because the mob online, there might be a mob or a group that backs you online. Yeah. And then you go out into the real world and everyone's like, you dickhead. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be very, very mindful that Twitter is also, I said this to a guy recently, nothing to do with anything political, but he was like, I was like, you know, those people that goad you into doing crazy things online are just trolls that want you to be crazy. They don't actually like you. Like, they just want to see you do, like, show your ass, basically. He should have never apologized. Where is our reparation for 400 years of slavery, is what Michael Ramsey's got to say.
Okay, so like the whole thing about like, I get what you guys are saying. I guess I just want to know, and we'll never know, what is the line between free speech that goes unpunished and free speech that is punished. Like, do you know what I mean? Because like Neek said, he literally asked a question that was at the wrong time. You know what I mean? I guess that's what really freaks me out about this whole thing, is because people are like, well, free speech doesn't mean it goes unpunished.
I think that's the big point, Jess. I think
who has to be hurt? Like,
if this had come a week later, he wouldn't have had any of this.
Sorry?
If this had come a week later, if he hadn't tweeted this at the height of everything, it probably wouldn't have got the same reaction. That's the be all end all of it. Whether you think that's right or wrong. If this had been tweeted days or a week later, it probably wouldn't have had the same reaction. And whether that's what he intended or not, we don't know.
To lighten the mood slightly, have hope. What group are Nigeria in at the World Cup? Just to lighten the mood.
Bits and bars.
Yeah. Piss off, man.
Hi Terry, much love, my man. I watch every bit of content you spit. Facts. Appreciate your work you put in. Would love to shout out to my new channel from Australia. Just started. Go check out Gunner Down Under in Australia. Big up yourself, my friend. We have some super chats from earlier, but they're more related to the other subjects, so we'll bring them up a little bit later on the show. But look, good discussion, people, and I wanted to have it because it's everywhere today. And as I think I could sit here and talk about this for hours, if I'm being honest, because it's so there's so many layers to it. Trev in 2018 racially abused another person, but that's also the thing with Trevor Sinclair, which a lot of people called him out for. Didn't he get charged? But I don't think he got convicted, but he did get charged of it. But yeah, I mean, that's another conversation. But then again, he did that and got arrested for drink driving and still had a job. So like that wasn't cancelable. But then a question is, but I think it's all based on offense. And someone said this to me once, and I didn't agree with it for years. Then I agreed with it. Now then I don't know if I agree anymore. He basically said that you don't get to decide who and why people are offended. The offended is always correct. And I think that's a dangerous logic, because who knows if you're just like no, it is. Like I had a boss say it to me.
I mean, I could say I don't like cheese, and somebody says that offended me, and I'm finished.
But people do. This is why you're right. Though a line needs to be drawn, because it's almost, as you say, if you keep blurring the lines and pushing the boundaries, eventually, look. One of the things I've said for years may happen. We now know that you'll never see you shouldn't see. A comedian would get cancelled now if he had my skin color, went on stage and told a black joke, right? He'd pretty much get cancelled, yeah? I don't think it's meant too many years away until you'll start to, if they keep pushing those, they're not wrong to stop that. But I've had it said to me recently that it's uncomfortable watching a white person laugh at a black joke told by a black person. So how long until that becomes a cancelable?
My mum mentioned that the other day. My mum was at somewhere, and that's the point
I'm making. Like, there's the line's drawn, and then it gets moved, and it gets moved, and it gets moved. So one day, maybe saying I love cheese will get me sacked because of all the lactose intolerant people. Like, and I know that's being flippant, but that could be one of the things.
I almost said something, but then I was like, no, we gotta wait till he turned off
the No, but this is the thing about cancel culture. I saw a video a kid did the other day, like winding people up that have hay fever. He was sniffing flowers, saying, "How weak are you? You can't even sniff a flower. You're allergic to flowers." But who knows? In 15 years, that might be considered like something that gets you cancelled. All bald people get laughed at, don't they? Have hope. One day being bald might be one of those cancelable things. You can't chat about baldness. And then all them people that have tweeted about people being bald, like Guardiola, the bald fraud, suddenly you're all losing your jobs in 15 years. Like, be careful.
Hey.
Be careful.
You got one of them now in charge of your team, Terry. You need to be careful with that.
The best ball manager in the league we got.
Best ball manager in the league. Yeah, plus, I am officially bald. I'm just like, I've redistributed my hair, but officially on paper, I am still bald. I've seen a lot. Thank you, Wayne, for your comment there, my friend. Joshua here says, I've seen a lot of people voice their opinion, which is fine, but yet say things yet some things they despise benefit from great discussions from you guys. Not a problem at all, Joshua. I appreciate that, my friend. We've got some more here. Jess, the 3 lines come down to who has the power to deliver those consequences. His employer has that power to deliver it, just the way of life. The most protected form of speech is offensive speech, the type that speaks out on tyrannical governments. My bro, we'll leave that to you. Speaking of tyrannical reigns, Thomas Tuchel sacked very early on this season. Thomas
Great transition.
I know, I'm very good at that.
That was really good.
I know, right? I'm a star. But
Don't get carried away.
It was a really good conversation between us all there. I really actually enjoyed that. That's who I am, Terry. Hang on, this is probably cancelable, but I don't care. I think it's funny. Terry is trans bald.
I am. Gosh.
I am.
I literally almost said something in the same family, and I said, just wait until we get backstage.
Yeah. Need to have a conversation about Jack Grealish. That'll come later. We'll put dabs on the spot. But
100 more flop.
Thomas Tuchel sacked. What are you saying? Have hope. What are you saying? Have hope. What are you saying? Thomas Tuchel sacked.
There's another civil war. There's another civil war happening, man. There's always
It's so funny. I don't know why.
You were celebrating. Hey, you were celebrating.
Nick, relax. Go and look. I'm
on the terrace. Was when Lampard got sacked. I don't know which one you were.
I'm on the terrace. Did you Tuchel out or no?
No. I'm on the terrace, which means I've got to be level-headed because Terry wants professionalism here. So there won't be any singing.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do. We did. So look, here's the thing.
Did you celebrate when you signed Lukaku for 100 million?
Did you celebrate when you won the UCL? So, Terrence.
Let me just have hope. Did you celebrate? Yeah. This guy was calling Lukaku Luke Skywalker last year.
Was that?
Yes, you were. You called him Luke last year. You know
Me?
You were.
Yeah. We'll talk on Grealish later. No problem.
No. So look, see, Terry. The thing is there are people who are crying because they start back the manager, give him the tools of the kingdom long term. And to these Chelsea fans, and I'm speaking to these tribal Chelsea fans, you have to plug this thing called a football brain into your cranium, Because see, there are 3 elements. There's the left side, which is the mathematical side, the right side, which is like the visual side. Then there's a sensor, which is the football side. People aren't using the sensor bits, which is the football side of your brain. You see, I'm a right-sided guy. I was horrible at math, but I had had a spelling age of 16 when I was like 11. So I was like a genius speller. So the sensor is the football brain, and people are not using this. Tuchel is a cop manager. He loved dressing room. He got divorced. He had a Brazilian girlfriend. He fell out with key players of the team. He was playing satanic ball. He lost it. He lost it his way. Todd B, and I was shocked because I thought Todd B was like, blah, blah, he's going to keep him. But Terry, Todd B said, what's up? Todd B said, what's up? Because I was in calls. I said, look, Todd, look, it gets real. I said, what? I said, Todd, it gets real. And Todd was like, look, what do you want? I said, Todd, make it happen. I told us, okay. So after our call, I think we had like a 3-hour call and so forth, and it was crazy. I told him he's a great guy. He pulled the trigger because Todd realized that, look, see, thanks for the UCL, but this is big boy now. Chelsea are trophy matches. We need to make those hard calls, those tough calls that Tom, your boy club, can't make. See, Tom, this is big boy calls. This is Tom. These are the big boys. We're making those big calls. Now, Terry, that's the good side. He deserves to get sacked. That's the good side. Now,
wait up next. Why am I getting it now? Give me at least 10 minutes.
Let the big boys talk. Let the legitimate UCL champions. You don't speak fluent CL. I'm speaking fluent CL here. Thank you. So that's the good side. Now, the bad side is this. I only watched the first Harry Potter film, and it was crap. But I've read about 3 of the books and so forth. But the movies are horrible. Great books. So shout out to J.K. Rowling. No, Potter's not the right guy. And I think what Chelsea should have done is get a caretaker manager, wait till after the World Cup, but just take your time. But do you know what this shows? This wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. This was several weeks in the process. What happened was they always had their eye on Potter. He fell out with Tuchel and was like, okay, we want to sack him. We can't sack him after a win. We have to sack him after a loss, and a particular loss. And Dinamo Zagreb was the perfect opportunity to do what they were thinking of doing several weeks ago. So this Potter thing was already in the makings. And my thing is this is what people are saying. I think Todbe is looking at on Twitter. Todbe goes into Twitter. What's trending? Oh, Harry Potter. Yeah. So obviously these fans want him. Let's waiver once. Let's play Quidditch and so forth. Todd. He's like, you did something good now, something bad. Because I'm sorry, I don't see a UCL from Potter. I don't see a league. Maybe I see better football and so forth. But Terry, I need that UCL. I need that UCL. I need that EPL. And what makes it worse is this. Now, when you make a mistake, fine. Try and correct this as quickly as you can. But the mistake was made is that, okay, you gave Tuchel 300 mil to buy every defender that is on planet Earth. So when Potter is now coming in, he's like, wait a minute. I now have to have this 300 mil baggage of Koulibaly, Wesley, FIFA 4 form, and all these dudes like La Cucaracha. Well, he had La Cucaracha in his team, so at least he knows how to use La Cucaracha. But he's like, I didn't vouch for Raheem Sterling. I didn't vouch for this freaking dude. So I'm having to now take up on this 300 mil baggage. So you should have sacked Tuchel before he spent that money. Chelsea was screwed the other way. You keep Tuchel, we're stuck with satanic football for like several months. You sack Tuchel and you bring in someone new, then I have to now use the 300 mil baggage that is over every single defender. Chelsea was screwed. But in my view, this was the lesser evil. Terry, I was having mental abuse. I was having crazy. I don't know whether you've seen this film called 12 Monkeys. I was like Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys. I was going crazy. I needed some respite from that horrendous football. And I think Tuchel he had lost his way. So my hope is this. There, I'll stop because I've talked too much. This isn't great. I'm not excited. He's not the right manager. All I want is better football. Give me better football, then we hope for divine intervention.
And I do get that. And we look at this here. So, Thomas Tuchel, 60%, win ratio, third best win ratio of fourth best, of a manager at Chelsea. And I think it post-Roman, no, actually in the Premier League era to play more than 100 games. So good there, Champions League winner. You're already starting to see, though, outlets kind of come for Graham Potter. And a lot of Chelsea fans are not sold on this. So you see here, Graham Potter has been sacked by Chelsea from Odds Bible. Sorry, just practicing for December. Question is to rivals here. I want to go to Jess first on this. Is Graham Potter a good enough replacement? The way they're looking to back him, I heard it's going to cost like 60-odd million pounds for him and his team. Of course, the severance package to Tuchel. Is this the right move by Chelsea to go for Potter, or will he flop at Chelsea?
Okay, so first of all, I like the Wesley FIFA FOFA. I'm like, that was so funny. Like, please, like, clip that and send it to me. But
I don't know who this
is. Hilarious. But is he the right guy? Like, you're putting up Tuchel stats, and like none of that mattered. He didn't want Cristiano Ronaldo, and that was pretty much him dead in the coffin. None of that mattered to Daddy. So, in terms of Potter, though, like, I do think that it's all up in the air. We don't really know because we've never seen him manage at Chelsea's level. And he's coming into a situation where the fans are ravenous for trophies. Like, that's what they want. They don't want to get left behind. They see City is kind of monopolizing the Premier League. They want to make sure that they get their foot in the door. They want to make sure that they're still like Have Hope said, like, you want to continue to win trophies and you want to sustain it. And it doesn't help that the football's not great either. So I think he has a tough job because it's not just what it was like at Brighton, where it was use what you got, play good football. It's okay. It's I want the good football, and you also need to be winning trophies at a regular clip. Like, it can't just be like here and there, an FA Cup here and there. It can't be that. So he's taking a huge step up a huge step up. But what I do think that this says is like, I do think Chelsea are looking not for a long term thing, but they're looking for something that's a little bit more sustainable, something that they can build over a certain amount of time and maybe try to build that sustainability. And for a rival, for me, that's scary. I don't want Chelsea to look long term. I want them to be short term all the time. Like, I want them to constantly be sacking managers, because that keeps them from, I guess, having that long-term like Klopp Pep thing. And I know that Chelsea had been super successful over the last 15 years, but I do think that they started to fall in the in-between. They're between the top two and the other guys, the chasing pack. And so I'm not happy. Like, I'm not happy. I don't like it. I wanted you guys to go out there and get somebody bad, and you got Potter, and it's with the money that Bowley can put in, his type of football, the players that are already there. He made Danny Welbeck look good. Like, those players that he has are not that good and making them look real good. And they're playing good football. I'm mad.
When was the last manager, unproven manager, successful at a top club? And I say successful in the sense of sustained success. So winning league, winning Champions League. Who was the last? Because Wenger is the only one that comes to my mind. I thought about it a little while. He obviously had won the league with Monaco, but his stock had fallen. He was managing in Japan, and he came to Arsenal. Without a big reputation. Every other manager since Wenger that's won the league title or been successful over a sustained period came with a solid record, and those who didn't actually failed in the end at those big clubs. I'm not worried about Potter, other than the style of football is going to be good.
I feel like it's definitely, for me, it's more of like it's unlikely, but if it does happen, it'll hurt.
Premier League, not outside of Premier League.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, if it does click and it works, how painful is that going to be? Like, it does feel like it's
long term. There's probably success there. I think that's the thing. That long term, there's probably success there.
But I think right
now he exasperates the issues. I think right now all that's going to happen is Chelsea top the XG table.
Long term, he's going to have to be successful short term. Like, I'm not saying you have to win the league this year.
That's the difference. He's not going to get the chance to be successful.
You don't know that, though. You don't know that, though. We're operating on the back of
these new owners might be doing something different.
This is his guy. He sacked Tuchel, a UCL winner, for this guy. They already said that they want somebody for a longer term vision.
And he's not going to win.
So they may give him time. They actually may give him time. It's his guy. Like, they may
but just say, Jesse, and I think Nick's even touched the point, is that is a very simple mistake that people make. Hey, manager X did well with this team, with these players, and he is punching above his weight with these players. Imagine what he does with better players. It doesn't always work as simple as that, because now, I've always said this, Moyes deserved a summer. Moyes deserved at least a summer, but I do actually understand Moyes was like, oh wow, he did amazing. Everton played amazing football. They finished 4th in one season, so you thought, my gosh, look at what he could do with Everton. Imagine him with United. But when you now are dealing with a high level of player, but it's a different set of players, different background. You don't really have as much control as you normally once had. There's a lot more pressure upon you. There are a lot more invariables that are now upon you that really are not with you in a much more smaller team. So, as I said, I am hoping the football is better. But we now go into now getting better results and so forth.
Imagine you're in a title race. Imagine he's in a title race with Pep and Klopp. What experience does he have to drag on?
Yeah, he ain't doing it.
Keeping Brighton's head above the precipice.
Nick's have hope. Nick's have hope. Have hope.
You guys missed it. I didn't say like tomorrow. Like,
no, I know, Jess, but even if it's 5 years' time, the first 4 years he didn't win the league with them. So what again? What do
you do? What do you do regarding Potter? What do you do? Do you just leave him at Brighton until he manages to do a Leicester at Brighton and then let a top 4 club come and take him?
Potter,
or do you try and go ahead of the mold now?
Potter's next step should have been Europa League club, Man United. No, Leicester, West Ham, Newcastle, the team Wolves. That level of club. I'm not saying those clubs.
Okay.
But those clubs that are
it's a huge step up. It's a huge step up
from Brighton to Chelsea. is massive. It's massive.
It is massive.
Third biggest club in the world.
Relax.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Biggest club in London.
You're always talking about Real Madrid, Barca, Chelsea.
I hear what
Chelsea,
you guys
yeah,
are saying. I do think there's like a big chance it doesn't go right. But if it does, like, that's where I'm like, ooh, what if it's like the perfect little cocktail? Chelsea money, Potter, perfect little cocktail. I'm not feeling it.
I want to ask this question. I want to ask Daps, because obviously your team are the best in the country right now. How do you feel as a Man City fan? Do you see him coming in, long-term project, big money being spent? Do you see Chelsea as an instant or medium-term threat, or no threat at all under Graham Potter? How do you see it as a City fan?
You know what? Right now, I'm still trying to understand Chelsea, because I think that's the one thing we're trying to do, and we don't know what's going on there. Like, for me, if you look at it, 5 years, he's managed to get his team in. That deal wasn't done in a day. You're not going to get Potter in for 5 years and all of his team in a day. So there does seem to be some sort of strategy there. I think on paper, and I will be very clear, on paper, Chelsea have the best and the most balanced defence in the Premier League already, on paper. If you look at it, with Chilwell and Cucurella on the left. Cucurella can also play left centre-back. Then you've got Fofana, Silva, Koulibaly, and then you've got Reece James and Azpilicueta on the right, who can also play right centre-back.
When you have 100 defenders, it's hard not to have a balance.
Well, I get it, but they have got the most balance, and he plays with 3 at the back. I like his style of football. And do you know what? I'm a bit with kind of Jess on this, that we've been saying we want like these type of managers to be given a chance. And I've been saying, for me, I feel in quite a good position right now where I can go, do you know what? I'm cool with Chelsea giving him a chance, because I don't think right now with Potter, they're going to challenge us this season. And that's all I can look at, because I don't even know if Pep's going to be at City next season. So we have to base it on this season. So I'm looking forward to see if he can do what he's doing this season. If he does have a good season, then maybe in the summer I'll be like, right, they need to calm down with their spending, and I will start to worry about him. But the one thing I was going to say is, everyone's right that generally you can't take a jump up, and you need a certain type of manager to manage egos and all of that. But I always thought that PSG, to get the best out of this PSG team, they needed Zidane to go over there and manage the egos, right? They've gone for a lesser known manager, a manager that, like, people like Mbappe, people like Neymar can look at and say, well, I'm a bigger star than you. No one can say that to Zidane. And it kind of already is looking like that manager is getting more team spirit, more out of that squad than other managers have.
We'll see what happens when it's Neymar's sister's birthday.
No, agreed, bro, but you've got to admit, Neymar is looking a bit different, and it could be other reasons. But
no, World Cup here, man. Dad, it's World Cup here. World Cup tax. World Cup tax.
Once the World Cup's over, they're all gonna down tools.
Yeah, 100%. Nix, obviously, like the moment the World Cup is over, it is a Macarena, like in freaking Rio, man. So,
no, I'm gonna say this though. Look, I can't let it. All good points. All good points. It worries me a little bit. I said it in this. You're
always worried, man.
Yeah.
You're scared of Arsenal. You're worried of Potter.
Arsenal have been good, and I've been right.
He agrees with me.
Look, this is the thing, though, right? In the summer, I said I'd be scared of Chelsea. I still stand by that. What none of us knew at the time, because this is the one thing I got into it with a few Chelsea journalists, the ones that are like proper embedded in the club. They work for the club and everything, and they were like, no, I don't see how this was not a long-term. This is a knee-jerk reaction. This can't have been planned. And most of the big Chelsea content creators are like backing me in the thread. It was kind of nice. Like, of course this was planned. The same as I think the transfers have been planned. I think what Todd Bowley and his group are cooking is very good. They're just doing it in an unorthodox way. They're being very loud. They're being very kind of rambunctious. They're kind of they're exposing their mistakes. But I think in the football world that doesn't matter, because these things go on. The football world know that Liverpool got rejected in the summer by Mbappe and by Tchouaméni. It doesn't matter what James Pearce and Paul Joyce tell us via the club. We know they got rejected because the players told us. So what's the difference between being in the football world? There's no difference of being rejected privately as there is to publicly. The only people that get hurt by public rejection are the fans, really. We cry and we moan about it. But, we all know we were rejected for Darwin Núñez. I don't care that the journalists say no. We all happy. We all know that Arteta wanted Lissandro Martinez to be a centre back next to Saliba. Doesn't care. I don't care what David Ornstein says. Ornstein, you lied to. Yeah, like you've been lied to. We all know the PR, right? And I mean, it's a bit of a joke. Everyone chill out. But like, I think Graham Potter could be very good for them because he plays some of the best football in the league. And if he can translate that into this team, can he handle a title running? Listen, the reason I'm going to say yes is this. Pep and Klopp are the best two managers, but the best two teams in the league right now. These guys don't know mind games. These guys are friends. There's no rivalry there. If Potter was coming up against Fergie, I'd be like, gonna get eaten for breakfast. The same as, by the way, if Fergie was 10 years younger when Pep came here, Fergie would have got the better of him in the end because Fergie would have got into his head like Jose did in Spain. And made him
never proven because it didn't happen in the.
I get that.
The head it didn't happen, did it?
Well, no, but then at the same time,
Pep is weak mentally.
This is what I would say. Like, hang on a minute, guys. I've been challenged there. I've got to say this. Danny Williams, is he a better boxer than Mike Tyson?
No.
The point is, Pep met Fergie at the end of his career, not in his peak. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if it would have been peak, if Fergie had 10 more years on him, I believe, and I'm going on history here.
Better Mancini or Fergie?
Oh, shut up. Do you know what I mean? I like you, Daps, but don't talk shit. No, but look, again, I'm only being flippant with that. But the point is, right, that there isn't really, the managers now don't do the mind games. The pressure ain't really there. The only people that will put too much pressure on Graham Potter and he'll foul is the Chelsea fans. Chelsea fans have little to no patience, typically, because under Daddy Roman, they didn't need to. It ain't working. I'm bored of this toy now, Daddy. Buy me a new one. And I think Todd B is changing. And as I said in the summer, this might be a little bit insensitive, but long live the king. Roman is gone, right? Hip hip hooray. There's a new sheriff in town now. And at the end of the day, I said it, they're going to run things differently, but this could be more dangerous. If you look at the Premier League and split it in half in the Roman era from when the rest of the teams got money, when that new TV money came in from the summer of 2014 onwards, if you compare the first half to the second half of the Roman era, the amount of title races they were in, the amount of trophies that they won, the level of dominance they had subsided. There needed to be a change at Chelsea. Longer term thinking, club philosophy from throughout, better quality of football, and more, I say more long term thinking with the manager and the style of play. And I think they're starting to do that. But they might not win in the short term.
You know what I'll say? I get it. Like, if all those things fall into place, Chelsea are a problem because of their size as a club and their influence on world football, etc. But I don't think there's a need to be scared. You might make a prediction. Well, Chelsea could do this. Chelsea might do that. But there's a lot that needs to fall into place. We don't know how this Todd B reign is actually going to be. We know they spent a lot of money, but that's all we know so far. We also know that he's he's not shy to make a tough decision. He got rid of Petr Cech, got rid of Marina, got rid of Tuchel, all which everyone said was a bit too early, whether it be in the transfer market or just after the transfer market. And there's also unknowns with Potter. So it's like you're putting one unknown next to another unknown. And the perfect scenario is great football and sustained success. But that's still I don't know. It's not something that football's not perfect like that. Football doesn't work. It's not just.
Do you not think it's worth them getting ahead of the curve now, though?
Yeah.
Because right now there is an era of dominance by Manchester City in the sense that they look so strong at the minute. They've got Haaland, who's only going to get better. Pep Guardiola, we don't know what's going on. He could well sign a new contract. Is it not just a sense of we might as well go ahead of the curve now, take 2-3 years where we know we won't challenge because there's a better team anyway, and allow Graham Potter to get ingrained with the club now instead of in 3 years' time. I think Tom is right with that. When he's at that level.
There's not anything, well, maybe you guys disagree, but I don't think there's anything that any of our clubs can do in the short term right now to catch them like next season. Like I feel like you do have to have a longer term look at things and be like, okay, how can we gear up to be, they may be long gone. I still think Man City are playing a completely different game than the rest of us, but basically we're all just waiting on Pep to leave. That's basically what we're all waiting on, right? They're waiting on Pep to leave.
I want my ball manager to beat their ball manager. I don't want him to lead for Man United.
Nick, you can't beat oil money. You can't beat oil money, man. You can't beat oil money.
What do you mean we can't beat oil? What do you mean we can't beat oil money? We beat Chelsea's oil money under Fergie, and we were beating City's oil money.
That was charity money. That money is clean. Roman's money is clean. It's from charities, bro. The heck?
Well, yeah, donations from the Russian people. Yeah, I've got some
Find
super
yourself
chats here. I'm going to come back to you guys in a minute. Just remember that Pep is leaving soon, and so will Klopp. Guys are tired. Both teams won't be the same in 2 years. Potter can win the Premier League in 3 years. Potter should have.
Okay.
Let me just go through these. Sorry. Potter should have gone to a team like Ajax / Dortmund as a next step. Teams who challenge for trophies, but without the pressure and media attention of the Premier League to get winning experience. Have hope. You need a UCL and a Premier League. No, you need a keeper, centre-back, DM, winger, and number 9 to win major trophies. And Tom, you need tissues for the upcoming tiers. That is the Liverpool chat is next, people. Comment from Will.
No,
yeah, go on. Yeah, let me just finish these super chats and we'll come back to it. Yeah, sorry. It's okay, Terry. I'm a brunette with a red beard, and now that I'm bored, I'm ginger.
The hell?
Ginger. I've always been confused by people that dyed their. I know a few people that dyed their hair red. That's always been a confusing one to me. Why? Like, as a white guy, the last thing you want to be is ginger. You just don't want it. I'm sorry, Prince Harry.
Redheads. People like redheads, apparently.
Yeah, no, not me.
No, shout out to my gingers out there, man. Gingerbread man.
You can't say that. You can't say that. That's cancelable.
Gingerbread man?
Yes.
No, as in like what's the
okay.
All right, okay, look, okay, right. Okay, shut up.
Gingers are all good.
Sexuality.
We'll come on to this one here. Graham Potter did a great job at Brighton, but now the pressure is on him to deliver trophies and a bigger budget. Let's see how he delivers, or if it's all hype. And I think that's a very fair question. I want to move on. Sorry, Daps, you were going to say something first. Sorry, go on, mate.
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing that I think Jess is spot on, and I think it was Tom as well. For me, if you look at Chelsea since they've been successful, and people always say I think one of you guys will probably get it better than me, but if you were to look at like the last 15 years, you'd probably say Chelsea are the most successful team in British football over the last 15. Then if you were to look at over the last 10, you'd probably say City, right? Because it kind of shifted. So it's a balance between them two. But the one thing that, as Hope already said, we haven't won the Champions League yet, right? So until we win that, maybe that's the thing. Chelsea have won everything, right? You've won everything, yeah? You've won everything. And Chelsea, I'm not going to say it's shit football because it's definitely not shit football. For me, they've won it, and it doesn't matter what manager they've had pretty much. It's always been boring, effective football. But boring, right? But it's fine because it's been effective. And you know what? I'm saying it's boring to me. If you're a fan of Mayweather, you like that style of boxing, so it's fine. Maybe you don't find that style of football boring, but because you've done it, doing that type of football, now it's like, right, we want to, and earlier on we were talking about a brand. So Chelsea's owners see Chelsea as a brand. And so maybe it's not just about winning everything now. It's about, we want this brand to be more attractive. Like, I think with City, that's something that Pep has done at City. Yeah. All right, he hasn't won it to Champions League, but he's definitely made us a more attractive brand. So with Harry Potter, I'm going to call him Harry Potter now. With Harry Potter,
that's messed up. That's messed. That's rude. That's messed.
They need a magician. So with Harry Potter now, maybe he's going to make the brand more attractive. And they might not win trophies straight away, but if he makes the brand more attractive and they pick up a few trophies on the way, that's why it's a 5-year deal. So I think they've earned the right to have a bit of time to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be an intriguing one. There's going to be lots of opinions. We won't know until it comes out. Yes, a few people are asking. Yes, I did watch Cyril Gahn versus Tai Tuivasa. It was a great fight. Potter is a solid manager and player developer, but I'll be concerned if Todd B recruits Paul Mitchell or Michael Edwards, someone like that. I mean, that's also part. If they bring a Michael Edwards in next to him, it's different levels. Terry's Ancelotti is in his 30th year as a manager and reign and still put Klopp and Pep and Tuchel in a spliff. A good manager will win irrespective of time. Well, no, what I mean by that is, my friend, is Fergie just retired. Like, his time ran out. Like, if Fergie was able to carry on managing, I think he would have got the better of them. But he was done. Like, he decided to finish. Like, that's what I mean by time. Big up the panel. Give the gaffer time and support him. We still need a striker to compete with the elite. Also, we need a midfielder of Fab caliber. I thought you meant Fabrizio then. I mean, he means Fabinho, I think. But yeah, thank you very much. Speaking of Fabinho, we're talking Liverpool next. Liverpool are in, for me, I'm going to say this is not a hyperbolic title or a Terry clickbait special. Liverpool are in crisis. I can't remember the last time you performed well. I don't count the Bournemouth game because they're the whipping boys of the Premier League, but we can give you that maybe. Defensively, you're getting ripped apart week in, week out. Trent is no longer even trying to defend. Van Dijk looks half a yard too slow. Klopp looks agitated. The midfield is non-existent. Mo Salah looks like he's been given this new big pay and he ain't at the races. Darwin Núñez has spent more time suspended than scoring goals. Liverpool seem like they're in a bit of a crisis. What are you saying? What are you saying, Nick? We're going to come to Tom a little bit later. What are you saying, Nick? Are Liverpool in crisis, or is this just a bad little patch for them?
Liverpool are done. Liverpool are done. And I'll tell you why they're done. And by done, people are going to take it, Liverpool end up finish second. We're not done. You're done. Because there was a point where Liverpool were challenging Man City up until last season. That's over. You're not challenging Man City with this manager and this squad again. Things are going to have to change. But as I said, when I say done, I don't mean they're finishing outside the top four. I don't mean they're not going to get to a quarterfinal competition. But if you're expecting this Liverpool team under Jurgen Klopp to win another Premier League title, it's not happening. Big changes are needed. And I think, and I'm not sure they're going to happen because of how your ownership worked. And the fact that Klopp's been there for 7 years. Like, how long is he going to stay there for? It's going to take another partial rebuild, to be honest. There's a lot of players who are in there for your best players, barring maybe Trent, are in their 30s or touching 30s. A lot of them are going to have to go soon or be replaced or be phased out. And whilst that phasing out is happening, that rebuild, Man City are just going to keep churning over the banknotes and churn over trophies at the same time. So I think, to be honest,
you have to throw the banknotes bit in there. Is there any need for that?
It's in comparison to Liverpool's lack of spending. That's what I'm saying. Money is there to be spent, and Liverpool don't do it. So the reality is, I don't think it's a case of Klopp's been found out. He's flopped. He hasn't flopped, but the challenge to overtake Man City is not happening. Like, if that was your mindset, if that was the plan and the vision, it's not happening. I think this era of this Liverpool-Man City quote-unquote rivalry is done. And I think there's new teams that are going to come. And Liverpool are just going to be one of the possible teams who can challenge Man City, as opposed to this guaranteed 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. I think that's not happening anymore.
Have hope. I want to go have hope next, because you always... we need to speak on this. I want to get your thoughts on Trent and Van Dijk, because I heard Gomez getting crap the other day, but those two are continually protected. And the reason that I call them out, and I know Liverpool fans will hate this, but Liverpool fans proclaimed that they were the greatest centre-back and greatest right-back in the history of the Premier League. And the greatest should always, or the proposed greatest, should always suffer the most scrutiny. And they are abysmal right now. Why is this? Is it complacency, age, tiredness, or just bad form? What has led to this shambolic start to the season, especially from the supposed greatest centre-back and greatest right-back in Premier League history?
See, Tom, I apologize in advance. I'm going to keep it fully real, 200% real, Tom. Trent's set piece taking, passing, I'll give it to him. As a defender, he sells fruit. As a defender, he's a fruit seller. And when you compare him to Rege can give you the two flex. He can defend, he can go forward, he can score goals, and he can pass and he can cross. You can't be a great right back of the level of a Carragher or the level of a Bart Simpson, aka Philip Lam, if you can't do both, which is that defending first, then what you do coming forward. That is the hallmarks of a great left back and a great right back. And what you're seeing right now from Trent, it's a knock-on effect of Henderson declining. Henderson did a lot of defensive work to cover for Trent. and it took off for Van Dijk. I was always, whenever we're doing the Van Dijk Ramos comparisons, people said, "Oh my gosh, Van Dijk is amazing. Ramos gets all these red cards." I said, "No." When I look at Ramos, I can see his defending. I can actually see the defending that he's doing, and he puts himself out there. And by putting himself out there in ISO situations, he may get a red card, but he puts himself out there to defend. Van Dijk was always backing off. And Van Dijk relied on the Henderson used to do in protecting him. Why did you see Van Dijk shouting at Milner so much in the game against Newcastle? Because Milner couldn't do that legwork of giving him that buffer and protection that he was so accustomed to. So now that Henderson and Milner can't do that defensive work, and you now have to do some real ISO defending, it's exposure season. And what we're now seeing is all of you guys like Tom who are trying to put Van Dijk in the same stratosphere as Cannavaro, Desai, Nesta, Baresi, Stam, Terry, Rio. You are mad.
He's barely.
And what we're not seeing is that these guys, they're frauds. Like Van Dijk, he's a fraud. So no, Trent. I'll give you Trent. Is that Trent is still like. I mean, okay, look. People can say that. How much did that Pickford injury affect Van Dijk? That was a serious injury that may have had a knock-on effect upon him. But I still feel that despite that injury, the fact that Van Dijk can't rely on that defensive cover and now has to do some special defending, which a Ramos can do if he's called upon, shows me that Van Dijk was never as good as peak Ramos. And let's even begin to talk about the greats, Desai, Nesta, Cannavaro, Rio.
But basically, your point is because you don't like Van Dijk's defending style, Ramos is better. They're both effective defenders. It's just Van Dijk backs off and waits for the attacker to make the decision. Ramos is proactive.
No. You see, Tom, there are two types of defending. There's the anticipation defending where you read the game, and there's the ISO defending, which that I can now take down this player with the ball in an ISO situation. Both are very important. Van Dijk, great at reading the game, superb. And he relied upon that because he had the protection of Henderson. Now that protection is away, you now need to do that ISO defending because you need both to be a great defender, the reading and the ISO defending. If you can't read the game, you're not in a situation where the attacker has to now face you. And I always question Van Dijk's ISO defending capabilities, which he now has to do. And now he now has to do because he doesn't have the protection. It's looking a bit sketchy. So this goes back to Klopp. And this now, I'm sure Terry and Nix, you will like this. Building a team is hard. Rebuilding a team is even harder. Breaking apart a team and rebuilding it is hard. Fergie built, I think, 3 teams. 3 totally different teams. And all became successful. 7th year at Dortmund, I think he almost got Dortmund relegated. Now you can say that a lot of guys were taken away from him and everything, but at that 7th year, Klopp didn't know how to revitalize that team. The very tough question Liverpool fans have to ask is, does Klopp know how to say, Firmino, Milner, Henderson, thanks for your services, now F off. I now need to bring in some new guys to now take your place. I think that Klopp is loyal to a fault, and because this guy is giving so much success, he's still trying to put him rather than say, no, I need a Firmino replacement. I need a Henderson. I need totally new guys because I need to build a new team. And also, Terry, there's a name that you didn't mention. His name is Sal. Until he starts scoring goals, the man that disrespected my Senegalese brother, until he scores another goal, his name is Sal. Because, Tom, talk to me about Salah. Because it's been 5, 6, 7 games right now, and he's looking funny under the lights. And he's now on $500,000 a week or something.
Minimum.
I mean, what do you want me to say? The game I would give him crap for is Napoli because he actually got chances that game. He just couldn't control the football to save his life. But every other time, we're making a 3-time Premier League Golden Boot winner, playmate for Darwin Núñez, playmate for Roberto Firmino, playmate for Luis Diaz, man who I struggle to see how they're going to get 10, 15 a season. We're making a 30-goal a season, 40-goal a season man playmate for them. The issues in this Liverpool team, you can look at the individuals, and Trent Alexander-Arnold is not trying. He's not trying at all. It's criminal. There's nothing there. There's no desire. There's no fight. There's no nothing. But the issues in this team are tactical. We are dying on this sword of a high line, and yet we have no pressing in midfield. We sit there and wonder why. Oh, how are they passing through the high line so much? Because it's very easy for these top level players, when under no pressure whatsoever in terms of press, to pick out their pass and to time their pass properly. James Milner, who's had 4 games, James Milner started the most games at left centre mid this season for anyone. 37-year-old James Milner, the man who should be watching bargain hunters on TV every match day, not starting Premier League games. That's who's been our starting left centre mid this season. It's deeply ingrained. Jurgen Klopp has to take fault for it as well. He is too loyal. At Mainz, at Dortmund, it was out of his hands what happened with his players and what happened regarding loyalty. His players were taken from him. Now he's in a situation where the club are going, you can keep your players. We will give them new contracts. We'll ensure that we reject offers, yada, yada, yada. You can keep your players. Now he keeps players that aren't good enough, and he rewards players that aren't good enough because they were 4 years ago. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is the 6th highest paid player at the football club. The man's been a better social media influencer than the central midfielder for the past 4 years. What's the point? The issues in this club are deep-rooted. And again, you can look at the transfer window as well. When your manager is coming out the week before the window closed and saying, I got it wrong, that's where you know the issues are. I don't know how he can sit there for 3 months and think an injury-prone Oxlade-Chamberlain, an injury-prone Naby Keita, an injury-prone Thiago Alcantara, a pensioner James Milner, an injury-prone Jordan Henderson, an injury-prone Fabinho, and 2 teenagers are good enough options to challenge a juggernaut that is Manchester City. It doesn't add up. That across the board with this football club at the minute, there are major issues, and it's going to lead to a poor season. Whether we get top 4 or not is up in the air because of how we're playing at the minute. People will put it down to tiredness. People will put it down to, the players are not working for them anymore, yada, yada, yada. I think it just comes down to we sold the squad short. We sold the squad short in midfield for 3 years now. 3 years since, I can't even remember. Wijnaldum left last year, but the issues were there before Wijnaldum left. They were there the year before he left. So we've had them issues for a long time now, and they still haven't been addressed. And all that's happening now is we're being spanned by James Pearce, Paul Joyce, Ian Doyle, whatever scouts, whatever Liverpool journalists you want to listen to, we're being told next summer's the one for the overhaul in the midfield.
I like Tom.
The overhaul in the midfield does not add up to the club's philosophy, because this club lives and dies by sell to buy. Which player in this team are you selling to fund Bellingham, Caicedo, whoever else you want, Barella, to fund a world-class midfielder? Which player in this squad is being sold to do that? And are FSG going to sit there for a window and go, we will take the hit to the bottom line? We'll take the hit to the bottom line. We'll make less money this year, but the squad is built for 3 years' time. Jurgen Klopp is a good enough manager to rebuild this team. And I say that because I can see the signs of the rebuild in the squad already. The attack, albeit Darwin Núñez isn't there yet, I hope he can get there. But the attack is built for the next 5 years behind what we've got at the minute. They're having to do a lot now. The defence is built for the next 5 years behind what we've got at the minute. It's the midfield that it comes down to. And our system, this fantastic system that last year we've been being told could, win the quadruple, challenge for years to come, is solely reliant on the fitness of a 31-year-old who can't last 25 league games a season. And it just crumbles apart when we don't have that. These issues have been deep-rooted, and they're just now coming to a head. And a lot of people are starting to go, "Whoa, where has this come from? I never saw this coming. Whoa, what's going on here?"
Tom, you said your defense is built for the next 5 years. You think, I don't know, like
barring Joe Gomez.
No, but you got the Joe Gomez issue, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Both Van Dijk and Matip are in there.
Canate.
Yeah,
so
but
the plan is for the defense, you'd have Carragher move in for Alisson. Trent would stay because he's 23. He can move into his prime. You'd have Gomez and Canate. I love Gomez's ropes at the minute. And you'd have Kostas Tsimikas, or you'd bring in another left back potentially, depending on how you see Kostas Tsimikas.
I have a question, like just in terms of like, because we saw this this past summer that you guys were supposed to get Tchouaméni and you didn't get him. That was like the big thing. You guys were supposed to get Tchouaméni.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you guys don't get Jude Bellingham? Like, I know that that's like the word on the street is
I don't know.
You're going to get him. You're going to get him. But like, this is my like. I'm looking at it. I'm like, what if Real Madrid come in for him too and say, you know what? Actually, that's somebody that we want.
They got option to buy
Look
Arthur.
at the situation this club is in right now. We are challenging for top 4. If we don't get top 4, that'd be like me walking up to Zendaya and trying to pull her. The moment Tom Holland or the Champions League club in this situation walks around and goes, "You're right, I'm gone. I'm out the window. I'm not getting involved." And then when you look at the wage packet, Mo Salah is a 3-time Premier League Golden Boot winner, 2-time Premier League Player of the Year winner, and he had to die on his sword to get a 350 grand a week contract. Do you think Jude Bellingham is getting anywhere near a competitive wage at this football club? We are solely reliant on the pull of Jurgen Klopp to pull Jude Bellingham to this football club. If we don't get Bellingham, I have absolutely zero idea what the future of this club is, because for 4 years now, going into the summer, this will be the 4th summer we've been told this. Bellingham's the future. Bellingham's the catalyst. Bellingham is the focal point of the next era of Liverpool. Bellingham can't be that if he's in a Real Madrid jersey.
That's what I'm saying.
Not just saying Real Madrid as well, to be fair.
I'm seeing like the same kind of. Here's the thing: is like a lot of Arsenal fans always talk about Liverpool being the template. You know, that's the template. This template, and it is because you can do a long-term rebuild and then fight for titles for a couple years. But then you have to do the full rebuild with the BS, because then you don't want the wage bill to go over a certain amount. So you have to pick and choose which star player you're going to give the money to, and the other one leaves and they start all the way over. And I just feel like that's just like the nature of the beast. And you have to, I mean, Terry says it all the time, you have to keep your foot on the owner's necks, because when they're winning titles, they're like, it's
want
great.
League titles. Our fans, our club, the people around want league titles, want sustained success. The issue is,
but do they though, Tom? Because you're saying that they do, but they didn't even think that they needed midfielders. Like
the top Reds are very, sort of accepting. The top Reds are very accepting because they were there for the 5 months of Roy Hodgson. You think it was 5 years the way they go on about it? It was 5 months of Roy Hodgson. They were there for that. They were there for the tough times when we had Paul Konchesky and Jovanovic and all that. We all were. But just because we had bad times 10 years ago doesn't mean we can't expect good times now. What if I was to build something very successful and then let it stew and start falling apart, but go, "Oh, we were in a worse situation when I first started"? That's by the by. That is irrelevant. We have owners that bought a mid-table club with top 4 aspirations, and they got us to top 4, which was fantastic at the time. Built us up to where we shouldn't have been with the squad that we had. Yada yada yada. Expanded the stadium. We've got more fans. Yay! Celebrations. And then we got a manager who could take us beyond that. And he got us to challenging for titles. He got us to winning a title. He got us to winning Champions League, getting to Champions League finals. But the owners went, "We're still operating on a top 4 budget. So why should we take a hit to our profit line, our money line, when we've got a medical worker as a manager?" And you just look at it in the sense of this. We won the Champions League. When you win the Champions League, to me, you are the most in demand. You're the most sellable club in the world. Most players would want to join you, and especially the situation we were in, because we just missed out on the league title by a point, but we were on the ascendancy. Yada yada yada, and they rewarded Jurgen Klopp by giving him Harvey Elliott, Sepp van den Berg, and Adrian. That was how you reward a manager for winning a Champions League. It doesn't add up, and it is a matter of time before it all crumbles.
Do you know what's crazy about it all? Like, I just been sitting there listening and everything else, and Klopp is complicit because he's defended the owner. I don't think defended the ownership, led the ownership. He is running things. He's developed that power. So he has, of course, made mistakes. Said it 2 or 3 years ago. Liverpool are a well-run club. They are just not operating in a way that's going to keep you at the top, competing with City year in, year out. They're not going to do that. Where Liverpool fans are suckers is that they allow the lies to cloud their mind. So when you guys got the new Nike deal, I remember how often, "Oh my God, we get 25% of all Liverpool Nike merchandise. We're going to be able to do things nobody else can do." My question would be,
this kid deal in history.
Why don't I hear Liverpool fans on social media every day calling their club out for this? You don't. And the reason they don't do it is because the top red say, no, that's not what you do. But you are still seeing more and more Liverpool fans put their head above the precipice. But on some of your players, there also needs to be criticism of them. And I focus on Trent a lot because I was kind of offended as a football fan that a 20-year-old is being called the greatest. No 20-year-old can be the greatest in a particular position in the Premier League at 20 ever. They can't. At 20, you can't be that greatest person for the very reasons that Have Hope pulled on earlier. As time changes, your team evolves, as tactics in football evolve, do you maintain players? There's one that I won't name because of what's going on in his personal life right now, but over 2 decades of football, changed his position and maintained his ability to influence teams towards winning leagues. They are the greatest players because they've been it and done it. Trent Alexander-Arnold is a key component here to, I think, what's gone wrong at Liverpool is you've become stale because players have become complacent. You haven't gone out.
He epitomises the issues. When you watch him play, he epitomises what the issues are.
He absolutely does. And you just look at these stills I've got here. And I want to, people have said for ages, he's a world-class player. He's a world-class crosser of the ball. And I've changed my mind on him. Here, Champions League final, ball played in. Positionally, does not need to be where he is because there's no threat centrally. Should be further back, should be covering that ball from Vinicius Jr. He doesn't move from this spot. Vinicius Jr. easy tapping at the back post. A world-class defender doesn't make that mistake. But maybe you would say, well, every now and then defenders make mistakes. Yes. But then you look ahead, game earlier on last season against West Ham. There he is level with the player in the middle who's the eventual goal scorer. By the time the ball is played through to this individual, look where the attacker is, look where Trent is. No awareness of what's going on. Now, I don't think Trent's lazy. People call him lazy. I think it's worse than lazy. We move on to this, the next steal, which is versus Manchester United. You can see him there in the on the right-hand side of the pitch, standing still. Now, some will say, oh, he's nowhere near the play, Terry. How can he be at fault? Or Trent has to take, Sancho has to take a touch, move on the inside, move on the outside. You then see Trent react and try and close down. If Trent has the awareness required, he can stop Jadon Sancho from getting his shot off.
But he didn't. The only part I disagree with you there, Terry, though.
Mate, let me just finish, please. Let me finish. You have here the same thing against Napoli just the other day. Standing still on the 1-2, watching the play go by. Watch the runner. Trent's got the speed. If he move with that 1-2, he can go in there and potentially cut that ball off. In the same very game, look where Trent Alexander-Arnold is, and look where the player in the middle is, who's just about to run in blue. He's the eventual goal scorer. The ball's about to be played. By the time this ball, Trent gets left behind because Trent doesn't see the danger. And like I was saying, people can disagree on one or two of these pictures if they want. But this is my point on Trent Alexander-Arnold. He isn't lazy like people are calling him. He doesn't see it. His defensive awareness is one of the worst right backs in the league when it comes to defensive awareness. He should be developed by now into a midfielder or an attacker because he doesn't see the danger.
Gareth Bale.
Oh, he's
not a left back, but he's not a left back.
He is so complicit.
He can't be a midfielder though. He can't be a midfielder because of them issues though. He doesn't scan. He doesn't scan. He doesn't look around. That's the be all end all for a midfielder. You have to know what is going on around you. And Trent Alexander-Arnold is a ball watcher. He's very lazy on the defensive end. The reason why it gets at me so much with Trent at the minute is because there are games where you watch him and he does so well defensively. Last season was a major improvement defensively for the most part. And then you watch this season and you're sitting there going, just try. Because when you do it, when you can be bothered, when you actually look like you care, you're a good defender. You're a brilliant right back, but he doesn't do it.
Trent is such a good footballer in terms of on the ball that he's a player that if you've got the right team, you can give him a free roll.
He's a luxury player. He's a luxury player. He's a classic luxury player. You build your team around him. You have people who do the work around him.
So if he's in the midfield, you say he doesn't scan. Cool. You have two people that do that. Like when Gareth Bale was the left back and he never won a game for Spurs at left back. And especially under, I think it was AVB first. And he moved him into the hole, basically. And just said, we get the ball to you and you do the madness. That might be where Trent ends up. Because defensively, we've seen this from 2018. When he was, and the reason back then was he's young. And, that's the reason Rashford chop him up. But 4 years later, the teams are having plans to say, let's attack Trent. This is a Champions League, Premier League winning team. And the plan is attack Trent Alexander-Arnold. He can't play a right back long term.
He doesn't see the danger, and this is the thing. And I'll stand by my statement. And maybe it's a little bit over the top when I say worse right back in the league when it comes to defensive awareness. If this guy had to go and play for a team that has to defend for 80 minutes of a game, he'd make a mistake every week and he'd be kicked out. They'd kick him out of the team. They'd kick him out of the Premier League. The fact that he has one of the best passes, one of the best crosses, some of the best vision in terms of it from an attacking point of view in the league, and maybe one of the best the league has ever seen, that element of Trent is undeniable. I used to give him a bit of a pass when I was calling him world class and go out, you know what, the defensive stuff will come along later in his career. In fact, he's getting worse now because he's becoming more, it's being exposed more and more and more. And that's just a few screenshots I took. If you watch them back, people may disagree with one or two, but it's always Trent's side. And when I really cottoned on to the fact that Liverpool fans knew he was a liability in that position was when Hussam was one of the guys that pushed this, but every Liverpool fan parroted this, pretty much every Liverpool fan parroted this for 6 months. He's told not to track and not to go with runners. It's the tactic so that when we win the ball back, he's ready to counter. Now, that was an okay example on some of the stills, some of the video footage where he isn't going with the runner from a midfield position back into defense. But when he's not going with runners on the edge of his box, that's not to do with counterattacks. And the fact that Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool haven't addressed this, they don't drop him. He had a game beginning of the season where he lost possession 39 times in a game. 39 times. We've got to remember here, Bruno Fernandes gets crucified for doing it 15 times, 16 times, 39 times.
Terry, you know what?
And then he's back in the first team. Klopp is creating complacency by not dropping out of form players.
We've got no one to drop him for at the minute, though, because I'm not playing James Milner at right back. He's ancient.
What about your academy? What about your? He's an academy player. You must have a kid in the academy that can come and do a job. Because right now, an academy player will defend better than him. 100%.
No, they wouldn't.
The thing is,
our academy is full of right wingers who are right backs. Our academy is full of them. Isaac Maguire got pre-season minutes. That's all he is. He's a right winger at right back. All our right backs are done. Joe Gomez is finished. Milner can't do it. Calvin Ramsey's injured. Calvin Ramsey failed his medical and was still signed because he's got a sore back at 19. Isaac Maguire is 17 and can't defend. Our right back is an issue, but we persist with it because when he's on it, he's class. There are two sides to the game. And when you are playing Harvey Elliott, who is a right winger at central midfield, a defensive liability, you need to make sure that the fullback supporting him is solid. And that is not what the right-hand side is at the minute. The right-hand side is frail. The right-hand side is the weak point. And it just gets exasperated every game.
Sorry, Terry, can I just speak on it real quick? There's so much on Liverpool I want to speak on, but I know we haven't got time. But on everything that's you've been saying about Trent, you're right. Everyone always says that Pep, checkbook manager, and that's the reason why he has the success. But right now, you've just spoke about you've got no one to replace Trent. Well, when Mendy got injured before the other reasons he's not playing now, we didn't have a left back, but we took Zinchenko or we took Delph, and Pep used the system to create a player that can play in that system. And I think this is where people need to, again, respect Pep. This season, I've seen concerns down the left because I'll be honest, personally, I don't rate Cancelo that much as a defender, right? But he's very good in our system. And this season, the biggest concern I've seen has been first couple of games, West Ham and Bournemouth. Everyone noticed we're playing with our fullbacks inverted, and I don't mean how he usually plays it. They're really coming into central midfield, and the key was Nathan Ake on the left. Because every time any team tried to counter down the left, Ake was over there. He put his burners on, got over there and covered. The minute Ake got injured, he came off against Newcastle. We went 3-1 down. 3-1 down, right? And then all of a sudden, we've seen us go out and buy Akanji. Because Pep's seen that there is an issue there. Laporte isn't about at the moment. We need an Ake got injured. It's very, very important that whoever we play at left back, and remember, Cancelo, if Walker's injured, is going to have to switch to the right. We have to have a left centre back that can cover. So we can blame Trent, but you know what? Why should we blame Trent? We all know Trent is not good defensively. So you create a system and get players around him that can cover for that so that Trent can be the player that he is. Go on.
The reason why people are blaming Trent is because we've always known this, but now he's not even trying. I think that's why people are so offended by Trent. They know that he's not a great defensive player and they have holes in their squad, but I'm seeing somebody, I mean, he is walking, he is not engaged, he is not involved. And so I can understand, like, you know, that there's other issues, but that boy was walking. He was walking. He was standing like a statue. He looked so like disinterested, and I feel like that's offensive. So I feel like that's more what it is, but I understand what you're trying to say, like, don't just blame him. But if you saw any player on your, like a player that came through your academy, if I saw Saka doing that, I'd be heading over to the Emirates right now. Like, what are you doing? You know, it's offensive. So yeah, like, I get what you're saying, but like, he was.
If you're just not good enough, you're not good enough. I can't fault you if you're just not good enough. I can't sit there and go, you should be better when you just can't do better. But I can question work rate. That is the bare minimum for a footballer. You have to work hard. That Napoli game was a disgrace from him. The amount of times, I can't even say the left winger's name, but the amount of times he flicked it past him, and what you'd see Trent do, instead of track the run, would go, you just flick an arm out with the ball. So he's either going to handball it or not track the run. All that happens then is their wingers in on space. The
thing is, as well, as you say, when Have Hope was saying, when Henderson's on point and your centre backs are in world class top level form, it papers over these cracks, and that's why claims of the greatest ever right back in Premier League history were premature. Because and I am defending one of my legends. Gary Neville was top class for over a decade in that position, and for me, until you're consistent for over a decade, you don't get GOAT conversations just because you're really good at assisting. Like, you're a defense, and everybody said this.
Kyle Walker, Terry.
Thank you, brother. I was waiting. I was about to say that as well, to be fair.
You know, I'm never gonna. Anyone who puts pedigree chum on their wife's chuff isn't going to be called a GOAT in the Premier League, in my opinion. I'm only joking. That is true.
What about sucking your daughter's toes? Is that all right?
Hang on a minute. He was getting a splinter out of her toe.
Oh, that's all right.
I did it to my daughter about 6 months ago. She got a bit of wood. You know, I had to put a tie in my mouth and suck it out. Like, I didn't suck players' toes. That's going to be clipped. Let's go put some of these.
Just on what you were saying then, on the defense thing, this is another thing. And you know what? I will do it. I look at things at Liverpool, and I always go back to streams, especially over the last year, that I've done with Liverpool fans and things they've said about my club and combined 11s, where they're saying no City defender gets in the combined 11 because the only reason we have the good defensive record we have is because we have so much possession. And you know what? Usually when I can't be bothered arguing, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever.
Can't possession is based on how well your defenders are at playing out from the back. It's crazy, mate. Listen,
but they say it's about the possession. Our midfield is so good. Is it not a coincidence that now all of a sudden Liverpool's midfield is not looking as good? Now their defense looks shaky. So do you know what? I'm not looking for you to say City's defense is better than yours. I'm just saying
Listen, Liverpool fans have no excuse, because over the past 18 months, you can guarantee you can find an article that puts at least 9 of their current first team they pick down as the greatest players in the world in their position. They've got zero excuses. Let's do some of these super chats. I want to go through these. VVD said, we are going through a bad patch like everyone goes through one. We've got to pull together, and we look tired and pissed at the end of full time. Thank you for that super chat, honesty. Mourinho's 3rd season is Klopp's 7th season. Also, Klopp has a history of building a good team, but has no history of completing a rebuild. And again, all those little details of rebuilding a brilliant team are what separates you from being one of the best managers from being one of the greats, in my opinion, because that's a very hard thing to do. I'm so happy that Carragher is leaving. Now on to Baby Keita, is what's been said there. Yeah, Baby Keita, that's a good one. Should have kept them T-shirts. This big ego argument is weird. Who is actually a big ego at Chelsea? Most players are young and impressionable. Also, sporting director coming in is big, is what Adrian Sheikh has got to say. These ones will be first one here. Will Pep Guardiola leave Man City, Daps? Sure, at some point he will.
He will, sooner or later. We've had a good run with him, to be fair. He's probably stayed twice as long as most of us thought. You know what? It's a bit mad.
We want him gone.
I'm telling you now that when he leaves, I am holding a street party.
I mean, you can. The thing is, this is a good thing, and with some of the stuff that was said on Liverpool, the beauty of it is that I already know that, like, we're next summer potentially can lose two experienced midfielders, but I already know that my board and the hierarchy is perfect. They will be working on it, and this is the thing: they will know before anyone in the media knows if Pep is going, and they'll be looking at replacements. So, for me, yes, Pep's very, very important, especially on the journey we've been on. But what's more important is Khaldoon and the people he has around him. Yeah. So I just trust Khaldoon that he'll get it right and he'll bring someone else.
Such a name. That sounds like a baddie in Marvel films.
Well, everyone calls him a baddie apparently because he comes from a certain part of the world. So
okay. Comment. We need to have a conversation.
2 midfielders in a year, and we haven't replaced one in 3 years. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. We need to have a conversation now about Jack Grealish. I mean, Jack Grealish. Yeah, I mean,
we do. We do. I'm up for that conversation as well because I'll probably agree with you. To be fair,
we haven't got very long left. I just want to get a quick soundbite on you from it. We'll talk about it on another show. Thanks to Super Chat. Is he flopping right now, or is that a harsh way to talk about him?
I always said I'd give him till December this season. In the summer, when he put it on the plate for Haaland and Haaland scored, and at halftime he said, "I told him, if you get in the right place, I will find you." Right, and I was like, "Perfect." I expect 20 GA from Grealish this season if he's starting for us. And then when he started, he's not doing what he said. So it's like, for me, I'm going to have to start coming for Grealish. I want him to do well, and I see elements of his game that are good. But you can't say you know what to do when you've got a number 9 and then not do it. That's not acceptable.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that. As soon as Wijnaldum left, KDB started having world-class performances against us, but Liverpool fans wanted him gone. Yeah, that's a very, very big L. Not replacing Genie Wijnaldum. But viewers, I really appreciate you all tuning in today. Long show, nearly 2 hours. We thought we'd do it with no football. I will have some content out for you over the weekend, a few individual sort of pieces, and I have decided we are going to do some tiering shows. We're going to do some tiering at the transfer window, a few tiering shows on the way. Terrace Classics are going to come onto that. So yeah, we'll get that sorted over the next few days. Back on Monday with another episode of the Top 6 as we gear up for the Champions League game. So Top 6 will be back. I want to say thank you to everyone that's been tuning into these shows every Monday and Thursday or Friday, depending if there's Europa League football. At 6 p.m. is the general time we go live. So make sure you have that booked into your schedules. That's always a pleasure to speak, my friend. Tom Little.
Good to come on. Thank you.
It's nice to have Tom on so many shows recently where Liverpool have been bad. It's rare that we get to do that. Neek's my brother. Always good having Football Terrace alumni and royalty on the show. There's a pun in there, maybe. Jess, always a pleasure. And have hope. I know he had to shoot off, but thank you very much, my bald friend. And
had a date. He had a hot date.
We had a date tonight. Who's his date with?
Really?
Todd B.
And I love it. Listen, if I was have, I'd love to say this to him. Just when you come, say that.
I was going to say pause, but you actually meant it. Yeah, it's exactly how you said it. Yeah.
Happy. There we go. Listen, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Thank you.